Hi, everyone. We live? We streaming? I think we are. Looks like we are. It's 3:27 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, Mountain Standard Time. Bitcoin is at $22,716. It is up substantially, up 8% on the day. It was up even higher than that a little earlier, just a little bit ago as I was getting the stream ready. Ethereum is at $1,608, up 14%. You know, the variability between ETH and Bitcoin is interesting. You see harder falls and steeper rises with Ethereum. Generally true down the line as you talk about smaller market cap coins. Of course, it takes less money to move smaller markets, but it's still interesting to see that happen. I usually expect to see Ethereum rise after Bitcoin too, which doesn't always happen, but is something of a long-term trend. And Giddy. Why do I even talk about Giddy anymore? I'm so annoyed at Giddy. Giddy is down about 1% at 3.7 cents. I still have not sold my position, not because I should still be holding it, but because I'm busy and lazy and haven't actively managed my portfolio quite enough. In fact, if there's one lesson to be learned here, it's that I really shouldn't be actively managing my portfolio. I should just buy and hold Bitcoin. Stack sats, my friend. It is a can't lose strategy. Stack and hodl. That's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to be right on one big thing, and that's the thing. There it is. I've given you the secret. Now you can go and do. All right. Let's look at the tabs today, shall we? Last time I pulled up Crayon, our AI art generator, and I input the prompt from our comments section, and I didn't show you the results. So here they are, friends, the results from the last live stream. A field of blood, dirt, and barren trees with the Coinbase logo, Knight fighting an FBI agent. Wow, so imaginative. Love that. It didn't exactly hit out of the ballpark because I don't see the Coinbase logo anywhere. Apropos for our stream today, we are again talking about Coinbase because they are again in the news. First, let's look at the price action. We've noted this flag, this descending pendant here before. It broke out below and now it is broken out above. We are up substantially, 22,707 at the time of this reading, so we are well above that little circle of proposed resistance or support. But we were below that circle a little bit ago, so maybe that point has come to so much of a point that it's no longer really a relevant guide. We need to look at broader flags like this one you see to the left of that tiny pendant. But we've also broken out of that. So where do we go from here? I don't know. Just stack and hodl, and you don't really need to know what the day-to-day action is. Why do I even talk about this? Because I can't tell you exactly what it's going to do in the very near future. I am looking at technical analysts and deciding if I think what they're saying is accurate or not. But they're all playing this gamble. It's statistics, it's probabilities. Do we think it has a strong chance of going up in this near-term future? As I've said in previous streams, the longer your time horizon, the more sure you can be that Bitcoin is, over the long term, going to go up. So why even bother with this minimal stuff? You can gamble all day long, but I'm not sure it's the best strategy. It's a game I decreasingly am interested in playing. Bitcoin is trading at 21,000 at the time of this writing. It's now well above that, closer to 23. Bitcoin is trading at this price. Bitcoin Twitter is dead. Half of all crypto funds/lenders are insolvent, and the global economy is slowing rapidly. Yet Bitcoin is still up 5.4x from its March 2020 low. Yeah. Zoom out, my friends. As I've said before, if there's one phrase that I like enough that I may someday tattoo it on my body, it is zoom out. Get some perspective. This is what you need to be looking at, not necessarily the day-to-day price action. If you're a day trader, you never get to sleep soundly. If you stack and hodl in self-custody and you know you have sound operation, good operational security, that's the phrase I was looking for, then you can sleep soundly every night and without worrying. The inflation rate of Bitcoin is set in code for the next 10,000 plus years. Is that true? 10,000 plus years? Is that an arbitrary number? Do they just mean infinity, as in there's no end point? This is from Documenting BTC, Documenting Bitcoin on Twitter. This graph notably is logarithmic on the right side, and it shows the increase in the number of coins in distribution via that orange line, and then the blue line shows the distribution schedule over time, with it decreasing exponentially or logarithmically over time, cutting in half roughly every 4 years. Let's look at that same data without the logarithmic scale on it, and it becomes even more stark. right? That stark drop off, that sharp drop off, that blue line, and ironically, these charts swap the colors, blue and orange. But you can see the decrease in supply over time when it is not charted logarithmically. It is very stark. Again, from Joe Burnett, who is somebody that we started off this live stream with. Joe Burnett says, I'm not sure if Bitcoin will ever recover from this crash. Price looks terrible. The community is dead. And the next halving is almost 2 years away. Gosh, he's right. Look at that sharp decline. But wait, what's this? Look at the time scale. This is the 2018 crash that he's talking about. The prices were at, let's see, up to 20,000 at the time, and then crashed down to about 3,800. When he says, tongue firmly in cheek, I don't know if we'll ever recover from this, because, if you can't tell, we are up orders of magnitude since then. All it takes is a couple years and some patience. From Untraceable at Don't Trace Me, bruh. If you bought 1 Bitcoin worth of Monero on January 1st, 2022, it would now be worth 1.45 Bitcoin. I expect the trend to continue, he says. Ironically, I just got a tweet right now, a response from my essentially Monero maximalist friend. Just popped up on my phone as I was reading that. Let me chime in and say I am not sure that this will continue. I like Monero. I do. I've held Monero in the past. I don't hold any right now. Monero has an actual use case. Even if it is an illicit one, it gets used on the dark web. Here's the thing. If something works technologically quite well in a dark market, in a black market, you can be darn sure that it has real utility. Drugs work very well. They have real utility, even though they are illicit and illegal. But I think Bitcoin's Lightning Network undermines this narrative, because the Lightning Network allows transactions to happen near instantly, near free, and it increases the privacy of Bitcoin. It's not straightforward tracing a transaction on the Lightning Network between numerous nodes. We should talk a lot more about Lightning, both because I think it is incredibly important and because I need to learn a great deal more about that technology. I am, shall we say, a Lightning maximalist? I don't know about that, but it kind of feels good to say it. I'm incredibly bullish and intrigued by the possibilities of the Lightning Network. I think it addresses all of the legitimate criticisms of Bitcoin out there. They are virtually all solved by this L2 solution. And it also positions Bitcoin to overtake all of the other use cases of other chains. Because while Bitcoin as sound money doesn't necessarily do all of the things that Ethereum purports to do and all of the duplicate chains, all of the copycat chains off of Ethereum, Layer 2 solutions on top of Bitcoin, like Lightning, can make that possible. And something like the Taro update that was recently rolled out on Lightning, I saw their CTO, Lightning Labs CTO, spoke at Bitcoin 2022. And it was incredibly technical. And not only was it incredibly technical, that guy spoke a mile a minute. He was like an auctioneer speaking a different alien language. I couldn't understand any of it. But what I did take away from that is the Taro update on the Lightning Network unlocks incredible possibilities for transactions on Bitcoin. Like I said, I'm very bullish. I think we need to spend more time with that topic, and we will in the future. Bitcoin has no competitors, says @RelyApp. Few understand this. It's true. If you look back at market capitalization spanning years, who's in the number one spot every year? It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is king. The others not only routinely change, but some that are dominant from previous years disappear almost entirely. They not only drop out of their top slots in the top 10, they drop out of significance entirely. They drop out of the top 100. Some of these coins or tokens have lost market value that has never returned, even in a booming cycle where Bitcoin will 10x and maybe some of the others will go up as well. Newer coins will rocket in value. But these older tokens that were the talk of the town a few years ago fade from significance because all of the potential hype and opportunity and excitement, it's faded away, right? If you're looking for a guaranteed winner, there really is just one thing you can bet on, And I don't even think that Ethereum is a guaranteed winner. Again, I think Lightning Network addresses all of the criticisms, the valid criticisms of Bitcoin, and positions it to potentially eclipse everything else. If you are somebody who is intrigued by the idea of hyper-Bitcoinization, of Bitcoin adoption throughout the global economy for virtually all monetary uses, then you should be very intrigued by Lightning, because that's what's going to technologically make that possible. Okay, moving on. Michael Saylor, following today's meeting of the Federal Reserve, Bitcoin's monetary policy remains unchanged. This is the thing that makes me chuckle about the merge, the Ethereum merge. Everybody says that ETH is ultrasound money. The supporters of ETH say it's ultrasound money, and that the merge is going to make it even more so, that it's going to have a distribution schedule that makes it so scarce it'll be incredibly valuable. Well, friends, the problem is not scarcity. You see, I could create Austin Coin today and make one of them. That's more scarce than Ethereum. Should be ultra valuable then, right? Well, no, because you see, you need to balance those things, utility and distribution. The problem is not necessarily scarcity. The problem is that something like Ethereum does change its monetary policy. We know that the United States dollar and the Federal Reserve change their policy all the time. That's what Michael Saylor is talking about. Following today's meeting of the Federal Reserve, Bitcoin doesn't change, even though the Fed and the US dollar do. He continues on in another tweet, Bitcoin offers a sound ethical, technical, and economic foundation for the emerging digital asset economy and will be the primary beneficiary of the current wave of crypto regulation and rationalization. So Saylor is saying that as things get regulated by the SEC and other regulatory bodies, that Bitcoin will be the beneficiary because it will do away with regulatory uncertainty. And as critical as I can be of Gary Gensler, and as many are rightfully critical of him, he's made it very clear that Bitcoin is not a security. It won't be as heavily regulated as all the other cryptos that he goes after, and companies. As we know, he's going after Coinbase. Jeff Booth, author of The Price of Tomorrow about deflationary currency, elaborates on this topic. All the world waits on what's a small... Let me try that again. All the world waits on what a small group of people with backwards-looking information will do to pretend they are in control of a financial system that is past the point of rescue. I think he's right. Doesn't that sound cataclysmic? Saying that the Federal Reserve and the U.S. dollar are past the point of rescue? Because of the dollar, the U.S. dollar is past the point of rescue. What does that say for the U.S. empire? What does that say for the U.S. federal government? What does that say for United States power as a nation? It's not a good omen for them, for sure. But as we've already noted in this live stream, in my daily live stream, we live in an age of declining empires. The United States is not an ascendant power. On the contrary, every conceivable indicator shows that it is a declining empire. Ray Dalio is pretty explicit on this. He doesn't say the United States is a declining empire. He says, empires come and go, and dominant currencies, global reserve currencies, have a shelf life. And I believe that we're about to see a seismic change, and that another global currency will take over the reserve status. It's his roundabout way of saying that the United States is a declining empire on its way out. Balaji Srinivasan says basically the same thing, though it would be very interesting to hear those two debate because they have very different visions of the future. They see the same symptoms of a declining empire, but their prescription for what should happen moving forward, very different. Dalio thinks the Chinese renminbi will become the global reserve currency. I think he is off his rocker wrong. I don't know any country in the world that's going to eagerly sign up for that, besides maybe Russia, who's basically under China's thumb. Balaji Srinivasan, on the other hand, believes in the idea of the nation's network state, which is the title of his book that I am still reading and need to finish and put out a review on. Stand by, that video will be coming soon. All right, speaking of declining U.S. dollar and U.S. empire, from Carl B. Menger, what if someone came up with a better, more liquid currency that people prefer over the U.S. dollar? Quote, I don't think we would feel it right away, says Jerome Powell, but it would diminish the U.S. dollar's status as reserve currency over time. Fortunately, we have Bitcoin. This is a clip from
being the reserve currency.
This is Jerome Powell in a meeting months ago talking about what would happen if something else replaced the US dollar. He says we wouldn't feel it right away. He then goes on to say that we could have a basket of reserve currencies, which I think is incredibly plausible, certainly in a transitionary phase, right? Maybe someday something like Bitcoin becomes the one reserve currency and everything gets sucked into that gravity hole. But I think before that happens, we're going to see competing currencies, numerous currencies, baskets of currencies act as national reserves, global reserve currencies. Do you want to hear what he has to say?
A better currency for them to use. What we can do is we can make the dollar the most attractive currency by continuing to have the rule of law and open capital accounts and make it an attractive place for people to invest and to use in their businesses. There wouldn't be any short-term effect of that over time, though. I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency.
I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. There are also rumors swirling about that China and Russia are already on their way to establishing a different reserve currency for those countries and those nations friendly to China and Russia. The scary thing about a changing global reserve currency is that it almost always comes hand in hand with widespread war. It's not like nations will give up that power willingly or eagerly. They're going to fight with everything they've got to preserve it. In fact, it can be argued that the United States dollar is basically backed by oil, and that we have been fighting endless wars for decades now to preserve our global reserve currency backed by oil. Moving on. From Arizonan hodl, real estate is in desperate need for demonetization. The boomers don't want to acknowledge this reality because of how much they've come to rely upon it. But when you have a whole generation that can't afford to live anywhere, something has to give. Bitcoin is the only answer. He's right. There are all kinds of downstream effects of unsound money. One of those is the inflation of the real estate market that we have seen virtually my whole lifetime. Certainly since 1971. You can go to what happened in 1971. Are you familiar with this site? WTF happened in 1971. And it shows that there was a decoupling in all kinds of metrics in 1971 when, I'll just spoiler alert for you, the United States went off the gold standard. And I mean completely off. There had been changing monetary policy for decades before that, but this is when Richard Nixon completely severed ties with gold as a backing for US dollars. And a lot of things happened since then. Oh, a topic for another day. This from yours truly. I retweeted this from Brad Mills. There's a real problem with plastic pollution of our oceans caused by a culture of excessive consumerism, which is downstream of the corruption of the money supply by central banks who target inflation for economic growth. Bitcoin fixes consumerism. Technology fixes inflation. He's totally right. And I've thought this. This was something that came to mind repeatedly when I was reading Jeff Booth's book, The Price of Tomorrow. We have inflating money by design. Even under ideal inflation at 2%, your money is melting. And that compounds over time. So what do you do? What do you need to do as an individual and as a company? You need cash flow. You need ever more money constantly flowing in because you can't effectively save. No, you have to put your money somewhere else. Real estate, as we were just talking about, or cash flow from selling garbage. Right out the door, mass manufactured garbage. I am shocked how much garbage makes its way into my home that is basically garbage upon arrival. A brand new cheap plastic toy in a Happy Meal Happy Meal from McDonald's for my kids. I hate McDonald's, but they love to go there and they always want the toys. And it's garbage upon arrival. The way it's packaged is garbage upon arrival. We have so much stuff that is meant to be used up quickly, and thrown away. And it's literally filling the oceans. You can't go for a walk anywhere without seeing garbage all over the ground. I think this is a downstream effect of our melting money. Because if you could actually save, You would be less incentivized to drive constant cash flow for yourself and your business. You wouldn't feel the pressure to have constant in-stream of money because the money you have wouldn't be melting all the time. All right, that's my theory. Does anybody want to prove that? Can you validate that theory or disprove it? If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Or if you agree, let me know why. Moving on. The fact that some people don't know that one Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million. 100 million Satoshis means we are still very early. We are, friends. We are very early because most people don't understand this stuff. And that's what's going to change this. That's what's going to drive adoption. Education is going to drive adoption. In my stream yesterday, it was very short, and it was just one thing. It was being extremely critical of those that say we need more toxicity in the space. You need to be harsher. You need to be meaner. You need to tell people they're wrong even more. That's not what's going to change anybody's heart and mind. What we need to do, collectively, myself and others and everybody in the space, we need to educate those who don't understand. Toxicity will drive people away. They will leave before they even know what you're saying. Because we can pick up on toxicity right away. I don't have to understand the contents of what you're saying to know that you're attacking. And if somebody's attacking me, I don't care what they're saying. I'm going to leave. I'm not just saying this as me. I'm saying this as people generally. So what you need to do is be the opposite of toxic. You need to be nurturing, open, welcome. And when people exhibit their ignorance, you help them through that. You educate them. You don't say you deserve whatever bad thing is coming because you don't know about Bitcoin yet. How does that help anything? Ian Rand McKenzie is commenting. John Coogan's book Discord is going to be discussing 2.1 and 2.5 of the network stake. John Coogan joins these calls if you want to meet him. I do want to meet him, and I will join up. I said yesterday that I was going to join up. I didn't get around to it. Oh, too much to do, friends. Too much in a single day. I have a very difficult time focusing. That's my great struggle in life. What's yours? Let me know down in the comments. From Stephen Livera, a hardliner, if there ever was one. If you can buy or earn Bitcoin, you should. If you can self-custody it, you should. He's right. Simple lessons, right? Simple things that sometimes take a while to really absorb. I didn't self-custody, and I almost lost a ton of my stack on Celsius Network and Voyager and others. I was very lucky to get out when I did because I thought, well, they're smart, they're capable, they have whole departments of professionals who are better at operational security than I am. That proved to be incorrect, and thankfully I changed my mind before it all went tumbling down. If you can buy or earn Bitcoin, you should. If you can self-custody it, you should. And if you can't self-custody, you should learn how. Education, again, is the answer. Hashtag Bitcoin from BTC lulls. Babe, please stop. You can't just keep stacking sats into a recession. To which this guy only hears, Babe, please keep stacking sats. Yes, dear. I'm familiar with that phenomenon. From Trey Sellers, everything over 21 million, so clearly a hardliner. As the world transitions from a fiat standard to a Bitcoin standard, the global economy will shift from being a credit-based economy, to being equity-based. Prepare accordingly. This is another topic that needs more time spent on it, not just because it's important, but because I need to understand it better. Right now, we live in an economy that's credit-based. A lot of the things that you own are really just a liability from somebody else. It's not property per se, it's a liability that you own or that somebody else owes to you. A lot of our economy operates that way, and that is by design. It's a poor design, it's not a great design, but it is the design that we presently operate with. Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin is property. It's property that nobody else owes you, nobody else controls, nobody else is entangled with. You own it, you control it, end of story. That is a better system. Certainly better for the owner and holder. To the headline and thumbnail of our video, ARK Invest CEO. Bitcoin, this isn't quite it, but this is relevant. From Bitcoin Magazine, this from Cathie Wood. Bitcoin mining will turbocharge solar and wind energy. An interesting idea. Let's dive into that a little deeper. From Bitcoin Archive. 265 billion cubic meters of natural gas is wasted each year by the oil and gas industry. Only 25 billion cubic meters of natural gas would support Bitcoin's entire current hash rate. So this is coming from ARK Invest, Cathie Wood. Let's break that down. When you're drilling for oil, you come up with a lot of hydrocarbons, not just crude oil. One of those things that you come up with is natural gas. And just because you've built the lines and the infrastructure for harvesting crude oil doesn't necessarily mean that you have infrastructure in place to harvest natural gas. Yes, it is something that people use. Yes, it is valuable, but unless you have the infrastructure to capture and transport that many thousands of miles, unless it's dollars and cents worth it to you, then it just gets wasted. It gets flared off, literally burned away into the ozone. Atmosphere, ozone? I don't know. Into the air. According to ARK Invest, they're saying that 265 billion cubic meters of natural gas is wasted each year by oil and gas industry, and that only 25 billion cubic meters of that could support the entire current hash rate, which is rapidly growing. The hash rate is something that continues to climb even though the price is down. This is an incredibly positive thing for Bitcoin, and it's an area that should be focused on and should be developed because this is unassailable. Anybody who understands this understands that Bitcoin is net positive. There isn't even a good narrative to attack Bitcoin if you make this clear to people. And trust me, those attacks are coming. They're only going to accelerate. From Alex Gladstein, Chief Strategy Officer at the Human Rights Foundation. I always forget his title. I know he's at the Human Rights Foundation. I've actually met Alex before. I attended the Oslo Freedom Forum in 2018. But his title has changed, and I always forget his title. From Alex Gladstein, Indonesia, the world's biggest Bitcoin geothermal power in 20 years? ? See, this is riffing off of what El Salvador has done. Volcano money powering Bitcoin miners with geothermal energy derived from an active volcano. Well, Indonesia has a lot of active volcanic regions. You could, theoretically, power a lot of hash power this way. This is what I mean by people are going to come after Bitcoin's mining as a vector of attack to just say that it's burning the oceans, it's boiling the oceans, it's burning unnecessary fossil fuels. There are lots of ways to show that that's just demonstrably untrue. Lots of ways. And we should actively be developing those things, not just for the optics of it, but the reality, right? You can generate real value in ways that aren't just burning more oil. That said, I'm not necessarily opposed to burning more oil. There's a book called Fossil Future that I'm curious about and would like to look into. It makes the case for fossil fuels and why they're actually a really great thing moving forward into the future. I have a hunch that there's some real meat material in there that I'd be interested in. Haven't read it yet, though. Cathie Wood's ARK Invest offloads over 1.4 million Coinbase shares as coin price falls. This was my thumbnail today. Coinbase shares have taken a big hit following disappointing results in a report. The exchange is being investigated by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. So, because Brian Armstrong and Coinbase have the SEC, Gary Gensler, coming after them, their allies are scattering, including Cathie Wood and ARK Invest. So this is somebody that I have followed for a long time on Twitter. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but he's a sharp dude, and I like his commentary. One thing that he has rightfully pointed out is that Cathie Wood is actually a terrible tech investor. He says it's a hill he will die on. ARK Invest buys high and sells low regularly while making nonsensical analysis to justify price targets. She rode COVID stocks to popularity, then crashed so hard the S&P 500 now outperforms her fund. I don't like this, but it's true, right? I don't want this to be true, but I think he's right. I think Cathie Wood has really great theses in her investments and terrible timing. And frankly, the market doesn't care about your thesis if your timing is wrong. Timing is everything, and it's incredibly hard to do, and it's value agnostic. You can have a great stock that's valued very low and a terrible stock that's hyped very high. And depending on where you buy and where you sell, you will make or lose money, depending, regardless of whether something is a good investment so far as the fundamentals go. The market may just disagree with you at that time. Sorry. And this happens to Cathie Wood and ARK Invest all the time. They have not great timing, even though I like the things that they are interested in and that they invest in. Oh, so in my title today, I said that Coinbase is facing trouble, but they have an ace in the hole. This is the ace in the hole I was speaking of. Have you seen this video from Coinbase yet? Now, they really fumbled the release of their NFT marketplace. It famously cost a vast fortune to build. They spent a ton of money on it, and it had hardly any traffic at all upon release. However, it looks like they're developing some media, NFT related, and I gotta say, purely on an aesthetic level, on an execution of media level, this looks really interesting. If you have not seen this, I recommend you go find it. It's on their YouTube channel, it's on their Twitter, and it's on nft.coinbase.com. This is an animated short. It's about 5 minutes long with numerous characters that are engaged in some kind of pursuit. There's a MacGuffin that they're going after. And the style of it reminds me of Love, Death, and Robots, which I don't know if you have seen Love, Death, and Robots, but it is one of my favorite shows. It's on Netflix. The animation here is excellent, top tier. And there are some little, I don't know if I'd call them Easter eggs along the way, little clues here and there that you can open up, like this Twitter account. This is apparently one of the characters in their show. Only has 97 followers thus far. If you haven't seen Love, Death, and Robots, it's excellent. There's no contiguous story here. It's just a bunch of sci-fi shorts that are beautifully animated and are funny and are horrifying and are fantastical, and one of my favorite shows. Contrast all of that with Stoner Cats. Ugh. Some of you have probably already tuned out because I'm talking about NFTs and Stoner Cats. I saw this at a cryptocurrency event a couple months ago. This was developed with much hype because of who's associated with Stoner Cats. People like Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, Jane Fonda, Seth MacFarlane, Chris Rock, and, weirdly, Vitalik Buterin and Gary Vee. I saw this at they did like a private screening. Normally, you have to have a Stoner Cats NFT to see the show. So that severely limits who's actually going to watch this. That's the opposite of what you would usually want in a piece of media. You want as many people watching as humanly possible. Maybe they thought this would drive the value of their NFTs, right? Utility. You can buy it and watch the show. But I watched the show, friends, and let me tell you, I walked out. Not even on moral grounds, right? I'm not that uptight. I'll watch some challenging material or crass material even, but this was just boring. It was not good. It was uncompelling. And frankly, it was really weird to have people like Gary Vee and Vitalik Buterin voicing characters. When a raccoon starts talking with Gary Vee's voice, I don't pay attention to the show anymore. I start picturing Gary Vee because that's clearly who's speaking. He has such a distinctive voice. I don't know. It was not good. The Coinbase thing, on the other hand, is quite good. Thankfully, it looks like Eric Voorhees agrees with me. I really like Eric a lot. The guy is very pro-Bitcoin, but he's not dogmatic about it. He'll say what he thinks no matter what anybody says. He was right about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin very early on, before almost anybody else had this kind of conviction. I think he is somebody to pay attention to. And when regulatory bodies forced him to turn Shapeshift.io into a surveillance mechanism for the state, he was pretty straightforward that he was being, A, forced to do it, and then invested his resources to decentralize and disintermediate that. He turned Shapeshift.io into a DEX that can't be controlled by a centralized body. Contrast that with Brian Armstrong, who over time, as he has seen incentive to turn Coinbase into a more centralized, less user-friendly service, that peddles in distractions rather than focusing on Bitcoin, Brian Armstrong has made the choice to enrich himself at the cost of others every time. And yes, he's very wealthy, but he has actually, I think, set the whole Bitcoin space back quite a bit over the past decade. Other issues. This was a thread talking about helium. Helium, oft cited as one of the best examples of a Web3 use case, has received $365 million of investment led by A16Z. Regular folks have also been convinced to spend $250 million buying hotspot nodes in hopes of earning passive income. The result? Helium's total revenue is $6,500 per month. Ugh. Yikes. If you bought a Helium node, my condolences to you. It sounds like you are not making any money at all. And this thread goes into that. It talks about how users had expectations of making $100 per month. In reality, they are making hardly anything, and it's worse than that. They're just eating into the VC capital that has been infused into this. As we said, it received $365 million of investment by A16Z, right? That's just gas that they're pouring on this supposed fire. But if there's no real spark, if you don't have product market fit, it doesn't matter how much gas you're going to pour on the thing. It's never going to catch a blaze. And that's kind of what this looks like here. They've poured a ton of money into it. It is not generating revenue hardly at all. So get back to Bitcoin, I guess, is the answer every time. This is not strictly about cryptocurrency, but it is something that resonated with me. I have used Apple Notes for a long time. I recently have transitioned to trying to use, what is that called? Roam. Yeah, I signed up for Roam. I'm paying for it. I don't get it. I will admit that after several months of trying to use Roam, I don't really get it. Sorry. I wish I did. I would like there to be a coherent way for me to, as Tiago Forte puts it, build a second brain. But so far, I have a lot of scattered notes in a couple different places. The Apple Notes app, the Google Drive app, a little bit in Roam Research. But man, oh man, what do you guys use to offload your brain, your thoughts, your ideas? Do you use the Midwit apps, or do you just stick to Apple Notes and keep it in one place? Let me know down in the comments. Speaking of the comments, let me see what else y'all have to say. From Ian Rand McKenzie. Crayon prompt if you want it. Scrooge McDuck diving into a pool of bitcoins. I will use that, good sir. Thank you for your constant encouragement and input. Also from Ian Rand McKenzie. I love that take on how consumerism continues to perpetuate. Regardless of how abundant the world is, it's unsustainable. If not for the world, for our souls. Amen, man. Amen. It's interesting to think how something like sound money could ultimately be good for the soul. But I think that's true. The downstream effects of it are that you can save. You can effectively save. And without that, that's terrifying. The inability to save is a desperate position to be in. And it's what a lot of people under authoritarian regimes face today. They don't have sound money. They don't have constancy in monetary policy. They are subject to the whims of centralized powers, ego-driven people, and they can't make plans for the future. The ability to make plans for the future is one of the few things that has sparked and perpetuated civilization as we know it. Unsound money makes that nearly impossible. So, sound money enables saving, enables civilization, enables a better soul. Wow. Deep stuff, guys. All right, that's it for today. Tell me what you want to talk about in the future. I am working on scripts for produced content. That is coming, I promise. It's just a challenge to make the time, but it is coming. We'll talk again soon. Thanks, team. Bye.